Do you work with someone that you can't stand, or maybe you live with them? Well, my next guest is a naturopathic physician, making him skilled at looking at cause and the whole picture of problems and their effect. He noticed that when people solved the problems in their relationships, many of their physical symptoms also subsided. And that's when he made the switch to mind-body medicine. He shares my philosophy on bright, meaningful entertainment and uses his wit and insight for his corporate training sessions with clients like NASA, Lockheed Martin, and the FBI. Today, he is going to hear real examples that you have sent in to help you identify what kind of pain in the ass you've got on your hands, because there's actually nameable types. He's also going to give us strategies on how to bring out the best in those people. Best-selling author, fellow introvert, brokering communication and dad jokes, Dr. Rick Brinkman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Awesome introduction.
Well, I'm glad that you liked it. I love what you also tend to say, that you're a conscious communicator. I just love that because I love living life with a little bit more intention. It's so easy not to.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question before we dive into some of the special types that people have sent in. Is these difficult personality, or they're not personality, or are they? That's my question. Is this limited to personality types or associated in any way to personality types, or can these difficult profiles be with any sort of personality?
Okay, it's a very important question, and it's really the place to start. First of all, if you want to be successful, you have to separate personality from behavior. Behavior is fluid and it's constantly changing. 1 minute a person's normal, then they blow up, throw a tantrum, then they withdraw and they're quiet for a while, then they're normal, then they're whining, then there's something else. Behavior changes according to context. Where are we? What's going on? Are we at a business meeting, social gathering, one-on-one? And relationship. Who are we with? Boss, friend, spouse, co-worker. And the truth is, even the people you're closest to, you do not know how they are in completely different contexts and different relationships where you're not present. Personality is really everything. It's how a person is in all situations, all relationships, all contexts. And the catch here is that we as human beings can only consciously pay attention to 7, give or take, 2 things at any one time. You could be aware of what I just said, what you think about, the rate of your breathing, temperature in the room. And if we hear crash, there goes our attention, something drops out. Well, we have a part of our brainstem called our reticular activating system. It has a multitude of functions, one of which is like radar. So if you get married, suddenly it looks like everybody's getting married. And if you have children, it looks like a baby boom. And if you're interested in a certain car, there it goes again. A part of our brain's going, doo, 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 and then you see it. So back to personality versus behavior. If I think somebody's personality is negative, guess what I noticed? Doot, doot, there they are again. Doot, doot, told you so. Doot, doot. I knew nothing would work with that person. You could engage in the strategy for negativity. You could be having an impact. You're getting quite a change with a person, but you know what? You will not even notice it. So you really have to put aside the concept of personality and think behavior. Here now, how is this person acting? And therefore, what do they really need from me?
I could see where just having labels would be an unhelpful aspect to having labels, because you would automatically think personality X or personality Y, oh, I never get along with them. They're so
Right.
difficult to work with.
Exactly. Hmm. Yeah, but if you think behavior, then you realize, no, this is just how they are right now. And if understand, let's say take whining. When a person's whining, they're feeling helpless. They're feeling the victim, right? So if they're helpless, then if you could empower them somehow to problem solve, then they move out of whining. But if I just think that's the person's personality, then I probably give up and I don't even try, or I do something stupid that really makes it even worse, like try to offer a solution, which then they're going to whine about that.
I think it might be helpful for the listeners and the viewers if we kind of do a skimming of the difficult attributes first and then go into the
Okay, sure,
details.
yeah.
That way the listener can guess which one is which as we go through the actual examples.
Okay, so we have what's called the lens of understanding, and it's a way of understanding human behavior. And we have 4 basic intents. We want to get get things done. We want to get those things done right. We want to get along with people, and we want to get appreciated by people. Now, these are all part of us. If somebody wants to get things done and it's not happening, then they get more controlling. They go into what we call the green zone, which is the cooperation zone. They go into the yellow zone, caution. It's not yellow isn't automatically bad. If I'm a boss and I see my people are going in all different directions, I go, okay, people, look, here's what we're going to do. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. I'm now controlling, but I'm not really in a negative behavior. If somebody wants to get it right and it's not happening, they tend to go into perfection, focus on the details no one else is paying attention to. If we want to get along with people and it's not happening, we go into approval, do things to make sure everything's okay between us. And if I want to be appreciated and I don't feel it's happening, I go into attention, do things to get people to notice. So taking it out to the next level then, if people go into what we call the danger zone, if things aren't getting done, I could easily become a tank. All right, people, this is what we're going to do. You've been working on it 2 weeks, you're already 4 weeks behind. Now, here's what I'm in charge. Parliament dissolved, martial law. So that's tank behavior. People just run right over you. It's the bully. It's aggressive. It's not interested in anything that wastes time, makes it worse. Another controlling behavior can be sniping. If I resent you for something, then maybe I say things like, hey, I got a great idea. Let's play horse. I'll be the head. You just be yourself. Don't get all emotional. Can't you take a joke? Mm-hmm. It could be to your face or behind the back, but the sniper is not getting mad. They're getting even. Mm-hmm. What you also get out of a controlling behavior is know-it-all behavior. That's right. I know 99%, and I'm happy to tell you how much I know for hours on end, dominate meetings, go on and on and on. And a true know-it-all really does know what they're talking about. But the problem with that behavior, it's closed-minded. It's not willing to hear what others have to say. If we switch to get it right, and I go into perfection, I look at what could be perfection, and what does not measure up to what could be, then it's very easy to get into, oh no, nothing's right, and it's always wrong, whining. What we can also get out of that perfection is negativity. Forget it. It's hopeless. Every silver cloud has a dark lining. You suggest an idea to them, they say, pull, boom, got that idea. And the problem with whining and negativity is it's usually generalized. Everybody, all the time, everything, and you can't problem solve a generalization. So they're caught in their own quicksand. What you also get in that get it right area is, fine, do it your way. Don't come crying to me when it doesn't work out. And from that point on, I say, nothing. Now, you also get nothing behavior out of a different area of the lens, the get along area, where you want people's approval. So if you don't have something nice to say, I wouldn't want you to be mad at me, so I say
nothing.
Nothing, exactly. On the other hand, if you want something from me, I also want something from you, your approval. So I'm like, agreeable. Sure, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Oh, yeah, you need it by Friday? Sure. Oh, you need this on Thursday? Okay, And then things don't get done because in that moment when I'm going, my 7 bits of conscious attention is focused on pleasing somebody, but what it's not doing is task calculations. I'm not thinking about how long this is going to take or what else I have on my schedule. So I say yes, and then things don't get done. If I'm faced with a decision that could hurt somebody's feelings, I say, I'll think about it. Ask me later. Maybe. And that's my final decision. I mean, come on. We've all told a salesperson, I'll think about it.
Right.
Well, you're really going to think about it. No, see, that's approval-oriented behavior.
I feel like the corporate version of that is, let me run that up the ladder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where's this ladder?
Right. Coming out of attention, not getting attention. Nobody cares. What's the problem with the world today? It's the government's fault. This is what we call grenade behavior. It's the tantrum. Now, the difference between tank and grenade, tank should be in jail, grenade should be institutionalized. Actually, the difference is a level of intent. A tank means to do it. When people go tank, they take aim, but they leave other useful people in office equipment standing. When people go grenade, they blow up in 360 degrees. You hear all this stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with the present circumstances because a tank attack is a demand for action, but a grenade tantrum is a demand for attention. When a tank is attacking, we know what it's about. We may disagree with what they're doing and how they're doing it, but we know what it's about. When a grenade is blowing up, usually on what? It's just too disproportionate. What you also get out of that attention zone is another kind of sniping. This is friendly fire. People who like you, so they say, I never forget a face, but in your case, I'll make an exception. Just kidding. It's that friendly put down humor, friendly teasing. It has no ill intent, and it's a way of making connection with people. but sometimes it can have unwanted side effects. And then last but not least, what you also get in that attention area is think they know it all. That's right. I'm an expert and I believe it too, because when I speak, words come out my mouth, come back in both my ears, and I think, hey, this must be true. I heard it twice. So
So,
those are the basic 10 that we started
okay.
with. And then when we wrote a follow-up book called Dealing with Relatives. And
Oh
there were
gosh.
corollaries there, like somebody's the general of the family, they're just in charge and such. But then there were three other behaviors that were somewhat unique. One was the judge.
Hmm.
Oh, you're wearing that again. Looks a little worn. Now, the judge is coming out of that get it right perfection area of the lens. The other thing you get is the martyr. Oh, poor me. I do everything for everybody. That's coming out of that kind of need for attention area of the lens. It's kind of half pleasing people. So it's part get along, but it's also part, um, it's right there at the bottom of the lens where get along meets get appreciated.
Okay.
And then what you also get is a meddler. So a meddler is kind of like half tank, half judge. They judge you and then they take over and do it for you because you're obviously not going to be able to do it yourself.
I honestly feel like you just set the scene for some new sitcom with three mother-in-laws who are
Oh God, that'd be
diabolically.
great.
Wouldn't that be great? I really
Yeah.
like my mother-in-law is lovely for the record if she's listening or watching. But I feel like yeah, that I just pictured like three like older women conspiring to take over the neighborhood and make their son-in-law's life, miserable. So
That'd be
that'd be fun.
interesting.
Yeah.
So if there are three mother-in-laws, then maybe from a past marriage, one mother-in-law still has stuck around.
Oh, I like it. I
She's
think
not even married. The spouse or isn't even married anymore, but she's still being the mother-in-law of this person.
I think you have your next sketch on your hands. I think you'd make that would be really funny. Okay,
Yeah.
so I've got these examples, but to summarize the 10 basic ones, since most
Yeah.
of the examples that were sent in were work related. The
Okay.
tank, the sniper, the grenade, the know-it-all, the think they know-it-all,
Mhm.
the yes person, the maybe person, the nothing person, the no person, and the whiner. Did I get it?
Absolutely. You
Okay,
got it.
great.
A plus.
Well, I wrote it down. I'm a good study. I'm a good study. Okay, so here's our first example. She says, this is a listener, she says, the problem that she has at work is people who do not take initiative. She's in sales. She says, I'm highly motivated to complete a task due to the potential compensation. When I work with people who are hourly or who are not being compensated for working quickly, they are less motivated and oftentimes difficult to work with.
Yeah. So obviously our listener is task oriented. So they're in that get it done area of the lens. And the other people don't have quite the motivation, but we'd have to know where they are. Like if somebody's more in that attention area of the lens, then really appreciating them is going to go a long way. Oh, thank you. I couldn't have done this without you. You mean so much to this team. I really appreciate the quality of your work. And this is not, in an ongoing relationship. Every time this is called blending. When you meet people where they are, you're blending. If you go out with friends and you dress in similar styles or colors, you're blending. You're with a friend in a restaurant, you look at a menu. What are you going to have? What they're going to have to do with what you're hungry and thirsty for? It's not about hunger and thirst. It's about a feeling of rapport, blending. So it's meeting people where they are. So if we give that attention and appreciation to that person, that's what they really need. They don't have the monetary goal that your listener does, but that attention goal and appreciation. So that could motivate them. On the other hand, let's say they're more in the approval area of the lens, then what we have to realize is they're always trying to please people, but they're not going to be making realistic commitments because they can only pay attention to 7 things at once, and they're looking at you and they want to please you. And maybe they could have gotten it done, but then somebody else shows up and they agree, and somebody else, okay, yeah, I'll do that for you, and then it doesn't happen. So if you know that somebody's in that area of the lens, then you can't take yes for an answer. When they say, yes, I'll do it, you go, great, thanks. All right, let's look at what's involved here. You'll have to do this and this. How long do you think that'll take you? Okay. And, and you know what? You got to actually check with that person because you'll need information from them. So tell you what, don't tell me now. Go to them, find out when they can do it, and let's you and I touch base tomorrow, and you tell me what you think is realistic. So I have to slow that process down. And now note when I'm doing that, I'm being friendly and helpful, which is going to blend with where they are in that get along area of the lens. And that's the typical mode of operation for those people. They make commitments they don't keep, because they're not doing the task calculations. But if I lay out what they have to do, and even more, I give them time. I say, so let's talk to them and let's talk tomorrow. Because when they're by themselves, everybody has every part in them, so they can think about a task and be realistic about it. It's just in that face-to-face moment, uh, they're not able to. Now, let's say you ask them to do something and they say, "Oh, I don't know if I got too much right now. Could I get it to you on Friday?" The first thing you should say is, "Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you being honest with me. Thank you." That was such a huge step for them to actually be honest with you. And sometimes after you did all that stuff, the test calculations, da da da, and you've established rapport with them, that would be you want to recognize that that was the next step in them feeling open and safe with you. And in general, with human behavior, you want to appreciate whatever you want more of from a person. And once they do that, realize, oh, you really thank them for that. And the more safe they are, the more they can be direct with you. Um, so that takes care of those two. But then there could be somebody else who is overly, if they're in that get it right perfection, that they're overly anal about something, and they're going to be analyzing details that may not really need to be analyzed or thought out based on this one project or this one item. So with them, you'd appreciate their attention to detail, but you'd have to give them some clear parameters of this is just good enough, okay? This is really just what we need. But it's more important that we have it by Friday.
I can really see why it would be important for the person wanting to bring out the best in others in this situation. So like this listener, I would see how it would be important for her to be not in a heightened state of stress where she has made, I don't know if this is the case, but let's say she waited to the last minute to give it to the person who, that would not be ideal. I love the way that you rounded that out. Follow-up question though, there's a similar problem from another listener, but the person is his boss. And so the boss signs up the team for unrealistic deadlines based on client desires. And so how do you respectfully address your boss in that way? Because the examples you gave would definitely work for that first example where this person was a coworker or maybe an administrative support employee. But what if the person signing you up for more work or saying yes to things that they don't actually have to do themselves is your
Yes.
boss?
So we have to consider where the boss might be. They might be in that get along area of the lens. They're trying to please the client customer, which is valid. We certainly want to make that person happy. But we would, if that's the case, at some point we'd have to have a talk with the boss of, first of all, establish we definitely want to please the client. I mean, we're right there with you. The problem is if we make a commitment and then we can't fulfill it, that's certainly not going to please the client. And so this is what it would take to do this right, because obviously we want it right, because that also pleases the client. So we probably have to discuss the different things that they're committing to and get the boss to understand what's the timeline really for this type of thing. Like this really takes 3 days. Tomorrow, unless you tell us we're not doing anything else and screw all the other clients. we got to please this one. So we'd want to have that discussion about realistic timelines and get the boss to realize that if we make a commitment we can't keep, we're not pleasing the client. So it defeats the boss's own purpose in that case.
So you would reiterate the boss's desire to please the client, reinforcing their
Yes.
motivation to say yes to things that may or may not be possible, and then from there structure it out.
Yes, you want to be with the same positive intent.
Okay.
We both want to please the client.
Well, this next person says that their difficult person is a situation where any offer of help or slight criticism is taken as you wanting their job or position. They're constantly on the defense.
Do we know what the relationship is? Are they equals in this?
It doesn't sound like they're equals. I don't know the details, but I would think that if one person thinks the other wants their job, there's maybe some inequality in the positions. Because otherwise it wouldn't matter, I would think.
So, in general, remember, you want to establish rapport with people. That's an ongoing thing. So the more you understand where people are in the lens and appreciate them, or make them safe, or bottom line to the point if you're dealing with people in the get it done area, or make sure you look and know the importance of details if they're and get it right. So that's an ongoing thing. And what we'd want to do is, and if this person seems to be defensive, um, maybe we are being too get it done. We're going right to the bottom line of something they can improve. Maybe we have to start with, hey, this is great, and this is great, and this is great, and here's one other thing that we can do to make it even better. One other thing, in addition to, not in contradiction, not that you did something wrong, but here's another way we can, and depending on where they are, right? If they're in that get it right area lens, then this would be another thing we can do to make sure it's really perfection for that client. Or if they're in the get appreciated area lens, we would talk about appreciation, how much the client's going to appreciate them. So you definitely want to establish rapport over the long term in general, and then speak to their motivation. And if somebody's getting defensive, I would say that we probably need to do more catching them in the act of getting it right on an ongoing basis. And then it's just, here's one little thing that we can alter or improve. Not was wrong, but can alter or improve to make things better.
So it sounds like in every scenario, instead of jumping to, oh, they're a tank, or oh, they're a maybe person, it sounds like you start with why. Start with what their potential motivation is, and then build from there. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You want to recognize. Now, it may seem like people are in one particular area of the lens, but that's the illusion because you only know them in certain contexts and in certain relationships. Somebody can be a total tank, but you wouldn't believe what a wimp they'll turn into in a different context or a different relationship that you never
That's
get
so
to see.
true. Like when you run into your coworker outside of work and you're like, wow, they're a total dick in the office, but they're like so nice now, they're buying your drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I was interviewing a CEO once to prepare for her a seminar for her company, and she said, "Oh yeah, she's definitely in that get it done control area of the lens when she's at work, and she can easily get stressed out and become a tank. But then she says when she goes home, she becomes a whiner to her husband about the problems at work. Her husband can't understand, how does she possibly run a company? She's such a whiner." But he doesn't get to see her in a blazing tank glory.
that is interesting. Wow. See, that's why people are so interesting and so nuanced, and it's just these little tweaks that can help us understand and see the layers of each other a little bit better. I have a question about virtualness, since many offices and teams are working together in a virtual capacity. Are there any special considerations for virtual interactions like email or text, or virtual meetings like on Zoom?
Can you be a little more specific about what the question is in that?
Well, like, for example, I used to work for a business broker, and I just loved your book because I was cracking up thinking of myself in different situations. At the time I worked for this business broker, I was going through a stressful divorce, although like all divorces are clearly stressful. But that heightened my quirks. And I was definitely in the get it done and probably get it right, somewhere waning between those two. And I would start emails like, hey, can you send over the transcript that you said you would send yesterday? And then I don't think I even signed it, like Meredith, like I just would send it. And he would say, oh, this is great. And next time, let's start with acknowledging the person. Hi, Steve. Great seeing you at the city council meeting yesterday. Can you send over the transcript? So, I mean, that is one consideration that I've learned personally in my life. So I'm just wondering, in your experience in leading other corporations through this more virtual transition, if there's any specific tips that would be easy for us to remember of how to humanize that experience a little bit more.
Well, I think the mantra is meet people where they are. And so you want to start recognizing where people are in general in the limited context and relationship where you know them. I mean, when you personally do an email, usually we say what we want to say. You're getting it done. I always think that there's 3 rounds in any email. First is boom, you say what you got to say. Then in the second round, you got to turn around and look at it from their point of view. How is this going to sound to them? And then you might add, oh, here, Steve, great seeing you at the meeting. That's where you start adding those secondary things. And I think that one thing to stay with email is that all emails, after the greeting, the first line of an email should be a statement of intent. What do you want from people? And if you think of communication like a phone number, intent is your area code. It gets you in the right general vicinity with people. You know, I noticed this a lot with couples when I used to do counseling in my early career. Somebody, let's say, is upset about something. Their intent is to clear the air. Good intent. They go to their partner, but they don't speak their intent. They say, you know, the other day when you said da 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 da, and you know they're saying it nicely, and the partner hears a sound in their mind like this: ah, ah, we are under attack. This is not a drill. Oops, misunderstanding. If we start with "I love you," "I care about you," I have to have something blocking our communication. Now they know where you're coming from. Home is where you go when you're tired of people.
Oh, I
anytime
love it.
anytime you speak intent up front, you set up a clear communication, and you always know it's time for a statement of intent if you're worried about somebody taking it the wrong way. And so I would say that, so going back to the email, there should be 3 rounds. Round 1, you're just bleh, whatever your reaction to theirs or whatever you want to get out. Round 2, you're looking at it from their point of view, adding the pleasantries, statement of intent. And then in round 3, you should read your email out loud to yourself, because there are secondary messages that we have with our tone. We read the email, we hear how we are saying it, but the other person doesn't hear that. They're just going to hallucinate freely. So if, let's say, somebody suggested an idea to me and I go, wow, Mary, that's a great idea, but we'll have to talk to the union about that. Now, if I read it out loud, we'll have to talk to the union about that. Now, when I go, no, 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 that tone is saying it's not a big deal. But I can't depend on Mary hearing in that tone. She could be reading, well, I've talked to the union about that, you know, because she's going to, we hallucinate freely based on our blood sugar curve, our stress level, and everything we've got going on that day. So
Except the 4th layer is like eat a Snickers bar and level your glucose and then send the email. We have so many production ideas, Dr. Brinkman. I think we should do like a skit series together.
Okay, I'd love that.
That would be fun.
I'm a yes. I'm not being a yes person.
Okay, so the 3 layers, say them again, just wrap them up for me.
Well, the first round is you're reacting to their email, whatever you think. Or if you're the initiator, it's just whatever, blah, the subject matter, what you're trying to get across, like you wanted the transcript. Okay. Second round, you look at it from their point of view. Yeah, the pleasantries, as you pointed out, let's start with a statement of intent. And then the third round before you hit send is read it out loud to yourself and listen for any secondary messages you have in your tone.
That's so good.
But I would always say, you know, you got to also know when to bail on email. If you suspect that the other person's upset or you're having a strong reaction to whatever you're hallucinating about, it's better to pull the ripcord and bail on email. Joe, I get this is very important. You've taken your valuable time to write me. If Joe thinks it's important, that's a blending statement. If he considers time valuable, it's a blending statement. So I think the quickest way to resolve this is let's talk on the phone. What's good for you? And then even if they come with a second round, you go out, look, I know it's important. You've written me twice. Your time is valuable. We have to solve this. Here's some times that work for me. Pick whatever works for you. Sometimes you just got to hold that line with people and almost train them when to bail on email and when is it okay to be in writing with people.
Interesting. Those are such good considerations. As we wrap up, why, in your opinion, is all this effort and thought worth it?
Well, I mean, if people are going stressed out, tank, whiner, negative, whatever. They're making agreements, but they're not going to keep them. I mean, you're the victim of all that behavior. So there's two things. One is you keeping people out of the red zone is totally good for you. And secondly, the more flexible you get, you can think of like going to the gym. Oh, good, the know-it-all is going to work out my patience. All right, to listen to them and get them to open their mind. The tank is going to up my assertiveness level to just get to the point and be able to handle a little bit of aggression. So there's always something in it for you. And as you blend with a lot of people, first of all, they don't get stressed out, so therefore they're not going to piss you off in all the ways they could. And secondly, it just makes you better and better in all your relationships, and you stay out of conflict. And that's why the subtitle of the book, Dealing with People Who Can't Stand, is How to Bring Out the Best in People at Their Worst.
Yes, and that's the key, not to just have funny labels to talk about them behind their back, which this episode is not about at all, everyone. So if the listener or the viewer wants to learn more, I know I read this book, but it's kind of the shorter Cliff Notes version, you said.
The Cliff Notes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when I got it. Tell everyone what books you have out, where they can find them, and how they can stay in touch with you.
Well, Dealing with People You Can't Stand, okay, is in its third edition. It's going into 26 languages now, which kind of surprised me and Rick Kirshner because, certain cultures have some very strict rules about the communication game. Some are more hierarchical and so forth. But it seems to resonate with everyone. I mean, on one hand, that's a shame that everybody in the world can't stand each other. On the other hand, it's good for my business. Ching-ching. And then there's Dealing with Meetings You Can't Stand, which takes it to the next level because all these behaviors can come out in some sort of meeting. And maybe we should do even a follow-up session together on meetings specifically, because that tends to be a context that can bring out the worst in people who otherwise might be at their best. And they're on Amazon, and I have all kinds of resources on my website with audios and videos, and the Conscious Communication University, an online class. And so I'm at Dr. Rick, Rick Brinkman.com.
Well, that's perfect. Well, I hope that everyone does look at your website and order the book, for goodness sakes, because they don't realize it, but meetings are like the unifier of things that we all hate. So we're on to something. Like, we all hate the meeting. Let's make this the best as it possibly can, which I know actually in your book that you talk about how to have less meetings, which I love that. So Thank you so much for being on the show and for taking time to share with us today. This was great.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're still here. That's awesome. I hope to see you next week too. I talk with the most interesting people that you've probably never heard of. Most of them are paradoxical and bring an opportunity for you to grow as a person. So if you like bright, meaningful entertainment, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.